February 2026. And we should complete our chapter today, but I'll repeat this at the end because some will hear and some won't at the beginning. But we won't meet tomorrow because on Wednesday we begin our Navadvip Parikrama live stream. So we'll just leave the Caitanya Caritamrta at this chapter at the moment, and we'll pick it up after Gopanim. So we'll begin. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manor Vishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Shwapadam Tikam. Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajabi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Datana Rupe, Swabilasa Rupe. I think you can close the outside door and the kitchen window. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunaivaratino Kalo, Samarpaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Haripurata Sundarata Dikadamba Sadipita, Sadakradare Kandare Swaratu Vasachinandanaha. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, Shiksharstameka Purusha Purana, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sariradari, Kripam Buddhayastamaham Prabhadye. Dandavats Prabhu.
Haribol.
Yam pravajantam anapetyam apeti krityam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tam matayo taravo binedustam sarvabhutam hridim munimanatoshmi bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye kripamayi tvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanaravindam Bhajami radam aravinda netram Smarami radam madhurashmitasyam Vadami radam karuna baradram Tato mamanasti katina kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam layamam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Madhya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarsara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Madhya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarsara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my Sastang Dandavats unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all our divine Rupanuga Guru Varg and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhavevacha, patitanam pavanibhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So as I've just mentioned, we should complete this chapter today, and very immensely invigorating chapter when we appreciate the depths of our own impersonal natures. We've come from an impersonal place. Understand this. We have a sanskar of coming from the Tatashta. In the Tatashta, as we've said so many times, there's no sambandha, there's no relationship. It's just the bliss of Brahm Anand, the bliss of Brahm within the individual jiva, but there's no connection with any personality. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is the focus of this chapter, who is Brihaspati, no less. Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the Devas. Understand, the Devas, what is their services? I mean, enormous responsibilities they have of maintaining this cosmic, the movements of the planets, etc., is within the hands of the Devas. Like Agni, for example, all of fire is coming from the demigod Agni, the internal fire and the external fires. And then air, Vayu, this is all in the hands of a particular Deva who is empowered
to perform this seva for Vishnu. Vishnu is the manifester of the worlds, Mahavishnu. It's all coming from Mahavishnu. And Vishnu himself takes the responsibility as the maintainer. So in that mood of maintaining, he's manifesting all that, first of all, Lord Brahma, of course, the principal progenitor, the principal Deva, Lord Brahma. So he's manifesting all the worlds, and then to keep the worlds intact and moving, etc., then 33 million demigods. And these 33 million demigods are very dharmic by nature, absolutely dharmic. The nature of the Devas is fully dharmic. When you meet here in India, many people perhaps are coming from that realm previously, in their previous births. We see only Dharma really is present in India to a high degree. Krishna will only come to a place where Varnashram has been flourishing. He will only come in India. He doesn't go anywhere else. There's no other place on the planet where Krishna will manifest. He only his prophets and his avatars, not his avatars, his empowered personalities, like you can say Jesus Christ, they can manifest in different parts of the world. But the Devas themselves, their presence is here in India, this dharmic presence. So all the Devas are of that nature, of Dharma, but their focus of attainment in their lives is the Brahma Jyoti. They want to become Brahman realized. And the spiritual master of the demigods is Brihaspati. And Brihaspati has come as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Mahaprabhu has come to Puri on the order of his mother. We've already read this. Puri is similar to Dwarka in Krishna Lila. In Krishna Lila, it's Dwarka, which is Aishwarya Dham. Puri is also Aishwarya Dham. We'll be talking about this on Wednesday when we start our discussion on the distinction between Navadvip and Puri. The whole class will be about that on Wednesday. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's completely impersonal, and we can call Mayavad or we can call Brahmavad. Brahmavad is someone who believes in the absolute reality, but a Mayavad specifically is someone who believes that he is that absolute reality. There's a distinction. We've discussed this. But sometimes Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he interacts between the two. He goes between Mayavad and Brahmavad, but it's meaning impersonal. And we as jivas have that impersonal tendency. So here, Mahaprabhu is purifying in a very, very significant way. This high impersonalist is described in the 4th canto that Brihaspati is Brahman realized. So if he is Brahman realized and he's the spiritual master, then what is the goal of all the Devas? The Devas' goal is only the Brahma Jyoti. But they're very, very dharmic. They cannot do anything. For example, the demons can come into this planetary system quite easily. They can break all of Dharma and come in. The Devas will never enter because it's against Dharma. So in Kali Yuga, it's packed with demons. They've all broken the laws of Dharma, and they've come to exploit the earth for their own agendas, etc. So we have this in the world. But the Devas, they cannot come because it would contradict Dharma, and they can never bend against Dharma. They can't go against it. It's not, they just can't do it. So that's where there's sometimes, it seems to be constrained, and they have many battles in the Bhagavatam, in the 8th canto, for example. The demons can do anything. But the Devas are very dharmic in their focus, and they will not break Dharma, not at any cost. Although there are descriptions in the Bhagavatam where Brihaspati himself, in the 9th canto, I think it's 24th or 22nd chapter, wants to impregnate his brother's wife, and his wife doesn't want him to do that, and she's already pregnant, and he casts his semen into his brother's wife, and the child in the womb kicks that semen out of the womb. It's an amazing contradictory pastime. This is Brihaspati. So, you know, what does that mean? The devas aren't perfect, but they're dharmic mostly. You know, I'm saying one thing, but I'm reading, you know, there's these contradictions in the Bhagavatam. So we sometimes have to reconcile these things. But in this chapter, the overwhelming compassion, which is what I'm appreciating, of Mahaprabhu for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Right in the very beginning, it was described how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya protected Mahaprabhu when he came, just out of genuine kindness. Just because he's an impersonalist doesn't mean he's not kind. Don't think that all impersonalists are like demonic in their dealings. He's not. He's very generous spirited and hearted. And he immediately recognizes the youthful beauty of Mahaprabhu, and he checks the watchmen from coming with their sticks to beat him when he falls down in front of Lord Jagannath, and takes him to his home and very carefully tries to bring him back to consciousness. And only when Nityananda, Mukundadatta, Jagadananda, Damodar Pandit, then when they come with kirtan, they bring him back, Mahaprabhu, back to life. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, out of his benevolence, wants to teach the Vedanta to Mahaprabhu. He says, you're such a good-looking young sannyasi, how will you survive without the power of Vedanta? I want to teach it to you. So out of his kindness of his heart, he wants to do this. You know, it's not on some sort of superior mood. He just wants to enlighten him out of goodwill. So now this whole conversation that he has with Mahaprabhu, his teaching, takes place, as I said before, in the courtyard of the Jagannath temple. And there's hundreds of people watching and listening. And Sarvabhauma of 7 solid days is speaking Vedanta philosophy, Vedanta sutras to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu's not saying anything. He's listening like a stone. And at the end of that 7 days, Sarvabhauma says, so you haven't responded at all. So what is your understanding of what I've said? I don't know if you're listening to me or what. You're just in monobrat, just silence. And Mahaprabhu shocks him and shocks the whole assembly by saying at this point, he's saying, I have heard what you've said, and none of it is actually in line with the absolute truth. This isn't basic, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he's saying. It's not in line with Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta only substantiates that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you've left him out of everything. You've given a completely impersonal presentation. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's completely shocked. He's staggered that someone should answer him in such a way. Not in an aggressive way, but just in a way that he can hear. And then Mahaprabhu discusses with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He tries very hard to defeat Mahaprabhu, and he can't. He doesn't know that Nimai of Nadia was the Nimai Pandit, completely the most erudite scholar of Navadvip. And Mahaprabhu completely on every single angle demolishes him, but in such a way to leave his false ego intact. And I was explaining previously, the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is not a young man. He's an elder man, probably in his late 50s, 60s, something like that. And his whole life is just being dismantled in front of him, in front of his disciples, in front of the whole population of Puri. He's the Mahant of Puri. And he's being defeated completely by this young sannyasi. You know, it's a big thing that has actually taken place. It's shaken Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to the core, and it's really shocked all of Puri. This is Mahaprabhu's introduction to Puri. This is his introduction to the sannyas vesh. This is his first preaching that he's doing. Where else has he preached? When he took sannyas first, he tried to go to Vrindavan. Then he got tricked by Nityananda and came to Shantipur. Then he met with all the devotees in a beautiful uproarious kirtan, and then Mother Sachi directed him to go to Puri. Then he's come all the way through. He's went to Ramuna. He's told us the beautiful pastime of Madhavendra Puri. And then he's come, and Nityananda's broken his danda, and he's come like a lion walking alone into Puri, and then this is happening. So this is the sequence. Try to get the flow of we want to get this whole Caitanya Caritamrta in our hearts. Mahaprabhu is the Yuga avatar. We need to embrace Mahaprabhu fully, fully, fully in all the nuances, all the subtleties of his pastimes. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is so erudite, he's so brilliant in his descriptions. If we can ever hear this, if you're Bengali and you can hear this whole narration in Bengali, I have heard from other people. Of course, I don't know Bengali like that, but it's absolutely astonishing if you hear the actual whole recitation in Bengali. It's entirely like a poem. It's all poetic all the way through. And this is all coming directly from Raghunath Das Goswami. It's all coming directly from Swarup Damodar, from the instructions that Swarup Damodar, Lalita Saki, in her association with Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Das was 15 years in Puri. He was seeing all of these acts in front of his eyes, and he's giving this right into the heart of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. Krishnadas Kaviraj is repeating the absolute truth of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. It's astonishing. It really is. I mean, what he's able to give to us. So in this pastime, it's very significant with many, many teachings, but the principal teaching is the purification of impersonalism. And we are that impersonal culprit. We are the criminals of impersonalism. So by these teachings and by this example of Mahaprabhu, it's instructive in all areas, and particularly, of course, demonstrating the life of Mahaprabhu and his character and nature and generosity. After he's defeated him, he shows him his Chatabhuj and then his Sadbhuj. Both of these forms are shown to cement the and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is going to become his greatest follower, his greatest supporter. Now he's got this person in Puri. That means the whole of Puri has been won by Mahaprabhu in this one exchange. He's just come to Puri. A couple of, million people, so many million people in Puri, the inhabitants, I think, must be high numbers. They're all immediately knowing that Mahaprabhu is that supreme scholar. And some will see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because this Dham of Puri Dham is Aishwarya Dham. It's described that the inhabitants, they have 4 arms. Mahaprabhu, he's going to show them during Ratha Yatra, he's shooting tears from his eyes like syringes. This is not Nara-lila. You don't see this in human-like pastimes. He's going to push the Rath cart with his head when the whole army and elephants can't move the cart. And he just tells, take all that away and I will do with my head. Then he goes from behind and he just pushes with, and the whole mood of his relationship with Jagannath Puri is going to be described very beautifully in this chapter about Ratha Yatra. So Mahaprabhu is establishing himself instantly before he goes off on his South Indian tour. That'll come in chapter 7 and chapter 8. So we'll read on from this chapter 6. And this is where and Mahaprabhu has brought, very significant, he's brought prasadam to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, knowing that he will just wake up 4:30 in the morning, hasn't washed, hasn't done his teeth, nothing, no prayers, no vandanam, nothing. And he's giving him this Mahaprasad. And what does Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya do? He takes it straight away. And Mahaprabhu says, what are you doing, oh great Brahmana? You haven't even washed yet and you're honoring this. And he says, no, Shastra says you should offer immediately, honor immediately. So understand, all of these beautiful aspects to the, it's almost like a video that we're watching. It's like you know, it's coming from the heart of Krishnadas Kaviraj, just like Sanjaya in the Bhagavad Gita revealed from his heart to Dhritarashtra the whole of what was happening on the battlefield. Krishnadas Kaviraj is revealing to us in this fallen age of Kali. And I've said at the very beginning of reading through here that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is told that if all the books, Bhagavatam and everything, were drowned in the ocean, nothing would be lost if Caitanya Caritamrta was still here. This Caitanya Caritamrta is the heart of the Vaishnavas. Certainly as we proceed in our bhakti practices, we will find more and more juice and refuge, shelter in this Caitanya Caritamrta. It's the greatest refuge because it's packed with teachings, with sweetness, with full madhurya, and it's the activities of the Supreme Lord in his covered incarnation. So many aspects of, and we're just about to unpack this fully in the next week with our Gaurapunim Prikrama, going to all the pastime places of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, because ultimately Navadvip is actually higher than Puri. So we will explain this on Wednesday, this aspect. But now we've come here, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in his eagerness, he's showing Mahaprabhu, he's just spoken this beautiful verse, Tattenu kampam susamikshimana, punjana evatma kripam vipokam, kridvag vipulvam vadanandamaste, jiveta yamukti pade sadaya bhak. And he wants to change this mukti to bhakti. And Mahaprabhu is saying, no, you can't change the Shastra like that. There's a reason for it. And he's explaining the reason very clearly, that this mukti is merging into the Brahman effulgence. But bhakti is superior. And this has been explained already. So then the different types of liberation have just been described. This Salokya, Samipya, Sharshti, Sarupya. These liberations have been described. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya himself is describing these liberations. This is how enlightened he's become now. He's gone completely contrasting from the impersonal into the personal. This is astonishing when we realize the depth of his impersonal conception. This is what I've tried to mention just now, the depth of his previous impersonal conceptions, coming as Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the Devas, indicating only the impersonal Brahman. And now he's fully become personalized. This is like enormous for him, enormous for us, and enormous for Mahaprabhu's mission. Already Mahaprabhu, of course, he's Krishna himself. His mission is assured. That means his mission for you and I is assured. He has come for us. So we should take great joy and confidence that our own path is assured of success, because everything that Mahaprabhu is going to do and perform is only loaded with full success. So we cannot fail on this path. We simply have to diligently be Sharanagat and follow. So we've come to text 271 today.
Prabhu kahe mukti pader ararth haya, mukti pada sabde sakshat ishvara kahaya.
Now very beautifully, Mahaprabhu is going to explain this word mukti, that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to change with bhakti. So now we have to listen carefully. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the word mukti pade has another meaning. Mukti pada directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's actually Muktananda, or not Mukunda.
Mukunda, yeah.
Mukunda is the name of Krishna. Okay, so text 272.
Mukti pade arase mukti padahaya kimva navama padartha muktira samashraya.
All kinds of liberation exist under the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Mukti Pada. According to another meaning, Mukti is the ninth subject, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the shelter of liberation. So Mukti has significance. It doesn't have to be Bhakti. There's a reason for Mukti being there. It's just like today. There's quite a lot of information coming out about the drastic changes that were done to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's books, especially the Bhagavad Gita. There are thousands of changes. So a change like this, someone might think, oh, why should we put mukti there? Why don't we supplement it with bhakti? But that's not the meaning. And if you look at things closer, you see, for example, in Prabhupada's books, they're very explicit. You might not understand the reference today, but later on you will. But if you try to change it so that everyone can understand it in its sort of first understanding, you're going to obscure the subtle understanding which might be there and be revealed to you later on with more knowledge. So it's a sin. It's practically a crime. I'm fully supported, if everyone wants to hear about following the right translations of these books. The 1972 Bhagavad Gita is perfect. After that, they have interpolated it. It's shocking. There are hundreds and hundreds of changes. For example, I just tell you one small change. In the 8th chapter, in the very last purport, it's saying by Prabhupada that if one associates with pure devotees, one will achieve success. They have had the affront to change it, to say if one associates with devotees. They've just taken the word pure out. What is the difference between a pure devotee and a devotee? We can say, yes, we're devotees, let's hang out, go here or there or something like this, you know. But a pure devotee is on a completely different level altogether, isn't it? It means you sort of associate with a pure devotee, not just a devotee.
Yeah.
Why has that been changed? I have no idea. Those persons who changed it, I think, are really sinful. I can't reconcile that reason for changing that. It's demonic, is all I will say. When Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada left this world in 1977, Kali Maharaj entered immediately. There was no gatekeeper. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was the powerful gatekeeper. That Sena, that complete empowered personality to keep Maya Devi away. The very second he left, it was introduced at that point that Jiva fell from Vaikuntha for a start. That was when that misconception was introduced. And the leaders were trying to convince people of that. We have to understand, Kali, don't be surprised. This is Kali Yuga. It's the Yuga of the demons. Don't think, oh, it's demonic. Kali Yuga is allowing the demons to take their show, take their place, you know? So the devotees, we accept, yes, that happens like that. We're not shocked by it. It's like we talk about, what do they talk about today? Democracy. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada coined it correctly. Demon crazy. Democracy means demon crazy. And all the governments standing up saying, yes, yes, democracy, and let the people choose, let the rickshaw driver choose who should rule in the government. How absurd is that? What does the rickshaw driver know except is the price of sugar going down, is the price of, flour coming down? That's all he cares about. What does he care about the vision of the country's welfare? It's like in ancient times, the Raja Rishis, Parikshit, we see in Bhagavatam, etc. These Yudhisthira Maharaj, they ruled with absolute dharma, and the citizens were all cared for. The animals were all cared for. When we talk about taking care of the country, men, the nationals, that means the animals and the trees. They're all nationals as well. The dogs and the cows. It doesn't mean you slaughter the animals. They are all citizens of the country. They all need to be protected, isn't it? So this is the demon age, so we're not surprised But this demon mentality has certainly entered into the writings of Bhaktivedanta Swami. All we have to do is realize it and always take the 1972 edition, throw the other edition in the ocean. Yes, it can help with some sukriti, bring some people close, but we should know as senior devotees at least that that's not the real writings of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Is
So
this with all the books?
I've checked with the Srimad Bhagavatam, and certainly in the Bengali of the Bhagavatam, which was translated by Bhakti Charu Maharaj, there are no changes there. It reads exactly as the first and original editions of Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. So those editors didn't know Bengali, thank goodness. They didn't know Hindi particularly. So I believe that the Hindi and the Bengali editions will be saved for posterity. This is my understanding. I haven't noticed that it's changed because I'm not reading the Hindi or the Bengali. But I would imagine that the Hindi and Bengali are safe. But certainly the Bhagavad Gita, the most widely spread and distributed book, is totally interpolated, just like the Bible. What sort of Bible is coming to us today from 2,000 years? There's been so many changes all the way through. You've no idea. A Christian has no idea. They just speculate on something and then just write it in amongst all the text. And for a devotee who's chanting, whose consciousness is raised by his chanting, becomes more subtly with a vision, it makes a huge difference. One little word. For example, there's a verse, I think it's chapter 6, verse 35. It's saying about how by constant practice, this abhyasena tavairagya, this verse, what verse is that? 6:35. Remember that verse we've talked about before? Abhyasena. We've got a little bit of time today because we don't have many verses left of this chapter, so I'm making a bit of digression here, deliberately. Yes. 35, chapter 6. And this is saying in Prabhupada's 1972 edition, the Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and detachment. Now look at the recent edition. What will you see? It's not constant practice, it's suitable practice. Where is the similarity between constant and suitable? An editor is supposed to make the text more simplified, but there's no difference. There's no practice and constant.
Suitable practice.
Yes, he's got it right here in front. It's saying in the latest editions.
Vedabase.
You look in Vedabase, it says, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. What has suitable got to do with constant? What does constant mean? Constant means every day. Suitable means maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. Suitable according to who? It's a massive change. Someone who's very sensitive, who's really chanting and really wants to enter into the language of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to connect with what he's saying. It is huge. I find it so disappointing. That's why I have loads of these in my house and I distribute these copies all the time. And many devotees, they've printed just this edition. And, you know, it's certainly available, the 1972 edition. If you have another edition after 72, throw it away and take a 1972 edition.
Ritvik devotees, they give this.
Huh?
Ritvik devotees, they give this.
The Ritvik devotees, he's saying, always take this one.
No, they give the evidence of these all things.
Yeah. There are hundreds of changes. When I was living in Vrindavan years ago in 91, 92, one devotee, he's left his body now, named Komarupa. He went through the whole Bhagavatam underlining in red ink all of the changes all the way through. And if you flick the book through, you just see red ink all the way through. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of changes. And this is an example. I'm speaking this on the back of what we're reading here. Mahaprabhu is saying, no, don't change this to bhakti padaya. You keep it as mukti for a reason, which you didn't know before. The reason is that Krishna is Mukunda. He's the giver of liberation. So you keep mukti there for a significant reason, which you might only discover later on in your maturity of reading the Shastra. And if you cover it up with an apparent editorial cleverness, then you're going to obscure the meaning. Anyway, it'll be explained more here. So purport, Lord Sri Krishna is also known as Mukunda, or he who gives transcendental bliss by offering all kinds of mukti. Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into 12 cantos, and in the 9th canto, different kinds of mukti are described. I haven't noticed personally, and any of the devotees listening or watching, if they've noticed changes in the Bhagavatam, they can certainly contact me and let me know. I would be interested to see, but I haven't personally noticed any significant changes in the Bhagavatam. I've noticed many places in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada is saying explicitly that we never fell from Vaikuntha. You know, perhaps devotees should focus more on what Prabhupada is saying, not try and interpolate. But the 10th canto is the actual center of all discussions of mukti, because the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who is the 10th subject discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, is the exclusive subject of the 10th canto. Since all types of muktis reside at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, he may be called Mukti Pada. So this is very beautiful words here, because when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first 9 cantos gives us the Aishwarya impression and understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You don't directly get Krishna from the first 9 cantos. You get an indication of where is Krishna. But only when you come to the 10th canto, the beautiful smiling face. Today we just discussed the looking into the stomach of Yashoda. No, Yashoda is looking into Krishna's stomach and seeing all the realms and the exposure of the personality of Krishna, so we can make a relationship with him. All his characteristics, all his moods are there, especially as a little child, stealing butter. Such charming pastimes, pinching the babies, making them cry, letting the cows loose, the calves loose. I mean, doing so many naughty things. It's only a person who's doing this. So our impersonalism gets washed away by reading the 10th canto. It's so special, but there's a build-up to it. You won't really appreciate the 10th canto till you've read the first 9 cantos. You have to read the first 9 cantos. This was the instruction of Prabhupada. All the acharyas say like that. You have to be purified of our impersonal conceptions to come to the 10th canto. And the 10th canto reveals, especially when we come to the 5 Geets, this Venu Geet, Pranaya Geet, Gopi Geet, Brahmara Geet, Yugal Geet, these Geets, they completely bring us into the heart of Krishna. So merciful the scriptures are. So text 273.
दुई अर्थ कृष्ण कहे केने पाठ फेरे सार्वभौम कहे ओ पाठ कहे ते न पारे.
Since I can understand Krishna according to these 2 meanings, Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, what point is there in changing the verse? Yes. Oh. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Yes, he didn't understand the verse. He wanted to change it without understanding. He didn't understand it. So text 274.
यद्यपि तुम्हारा अर्थ है शब्दे कया तथापि आश्लिष्य दोषे कहन नायाय.
Translation: although your explanation is correct, it should not be used because there is ambiguity in the word mukti pada. Ambiguity, it's like, for example, let me tell you another example. My Gurudev would regularly give the Diksha mantras, of course, to so many hundreds and hundreds of devotees. And many of the devotees, sometimes it would be like 20, 30 people at a sitting. And many of the devotees didn't actually hear what my Gurudev was explaining and how he was explaining the Diksha mantras. So I collected a whole lot of recordings of how he had described the Diksha mantras. And I listened to other devotees, senior devotees, telling me how Gurudev had explained. And I wrote it all down. And then I sent it to Gurudev saying, can I share this with the devotees? And my Gurudev said, never. Because the meanings change according to the depth of your bhajan. You can't put them in concrete and say, yes, it means this forever. The meanings will be evolving. Yourself, when you first chanted the mantras, it meant one thing. Okay, you understood part of it. But now, years later, you understand it from a different, more powerful, more in-depth perception. And it will go on evolving. The mantras aren't static. They're ecstatic. They have a life of their own. They're personalities. And they evolve. They're not stuck. So my Gurudev was very unhappy. He said, no, never publish this explanation. Even though I kept that explanation. But it was not, but for that reason, I'm explaining it in connection with this. Don't try to assume that you know the meaning of something which is expanding. It has personality. You understand?
Yeah.
So text 275.
यद्यपि मुक्ते शब्देर्हय पंचवृत्ति रूढ़ि वृत्य कहे तबु सायुज्य प्रीतिति.
The word mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation, but its direct meaning usually conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. So there are 2 meanings. One means 5 types of liberation, another means to becoming one with the Lord. Text 276.
मुक्ति शब्द कहिते मने हय ग्रीन तृषा भक्ति शब्द कहिते मने हयत उल्लास.
The very sound of the word mukti immediately induces hate and fear. But when we say the word bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind. Text 277.
सुनिया हासेन प्रभु आनंदित मने भट्टाचार्य कैला प्रभु दृढ़ आलिंगने.
Upon hearing this explanation, the Lord began to laugh, and with great pleasure immediately embraced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya very firmly, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was such a muktivad himself, and now he's saying this so strongly inclined towards bhakti. And Mahaprabhu is very, very pleased at heart. It's a very deep exposure here of what Mahaprabhu is feeling. Text 278.
यही भट्टाचार्य पढ़े पढ़ाय मायावादे तारे छे वाक्य स्फुरे चैतन्य प्रसादे.
Indeed, that very person who had been accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavad philosophy was now even hating the word mukti. This was possible only by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Massive, massive. 279.
लोहा के यावत् स्पर्शी हेम नाही करे तावत् स्पर्श मणि के चिन्हिते न पारे.
As long as it does not turn iron into gold by its touch, no one can recognize an unknown stone to be a touchstone. Text 280.
भट्टाचार्य वैष्णवता देखी सर्वजना प्रभु के जानिल साक्षात ब्रजेंद्र नंदना.
Upon seeing transcendental Vaishnavism in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, everyone could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. This is the aspect of Aishwarya that I was saying previously. This is revealing the absolute supremacy and potency of Mahaprabhu by this pastime, that he had the power to change the biggest Mayavad in India, the biggest teacher, none other than Brihaspati himself, into a personalist. This chapter is so weighty with wonder and significance. Text 281.
काशी मिश्र आदि यत नीलाचल वासी शरण लैला सबे प्रभु पड़े आसी.
After this incident, all the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, headed by Kashi Mishra, came to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. He won over the whole of Puri by this act. Text 282.
ये छे परिपाटी
Se saba kata age kariba.
से सब कथा आगे करीब वर्णना सार्वभौम करे छे प्रभुर सेवना.
Later I shall describe how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya always engaged in the service of the Lord. Text 283.
ये छे परिपाटी करे भिक्षा निर्वाहना विस्तारिय आगे तहा करीब वर्णना.
I shall also describe in full detail how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya perfectly rendered service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering him alms. Text 284 and 285.
ए महाप्रभुर लीला सार्वभौम मिलना इहा ए श्रद्धा करी करे श्रवणा ज्ञान कर्म पास हईते हय विमोचना अचिरे मिलय तारे चैतन्य चरणा.
If one hears with faith and love these pastimes concerning Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he very soon is freed from the net of speculation and fruitive activity and attains the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. So this is really significant, that to be freed from the net of speculation and fruitive activity, because speculation is Mayavad. This is not the truth. We're speculating. Sarvabhauma was speculating, yes, let's change the word mukti into bhakti. It was a speculation. So it's ultimately sinful. So I've been describing the changes that have been made in Prabhupada's books. They are sinful changes. And they can be rectified if people have the sincerity to realize their mistakes. If the leaders of that society realize we have made an error, are they brave enough? Are they humble enough to actually own up to it and say, yes? Generally, people who think they have become very powerful in the eyes of others are too proud to actually understand the truth of something. They want to try and constantly reconcile it. Oh, it was just for editorial, when it's not. What has constant got in common with suitable? I've just described this one verse. And what has devotees got in? Why would they take out the word pure devotees? You can look in the 8th purport, the 8th chapter. I'll read it from here.
8 or 18.
8th chapter.
8th chapter. Last verse.
Last verse. Is it 8th or is it the 6th? I'm not sure. Let me just check it. 8th. It might be the 6th. I've got a feeling. I just have to see. Yes, must be the 8th chapter. 8th chapter. Last purport. Yes, okay, I've got it. It's here in my book. I've underlined it.
Okay.
It's in the... So in the last paragraph, I'll share this with you. All devotees should appreciate this. If we just appreciate this, then the purification has begun. So it's saying the very last paragraph in the purport of the 8th chapter, one should try to understand the 7th and 8th chapters of the Gita, not by scholarship or mental speculation, exactly as it's saying here in Caitanya Caritamrta. No difference. Interesting. Mahaprabhu has just said this, and Prabhupada is repeating it directly in his purport. Mahaprabhu's teachings and Prabhupada are one. Isn't this just confirmed? It's amazing. We've just read that this is be freed from the net of speculation and fruitive activity. Prabhupada is saying the same. Not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with pure devotees. What does it say?
It's devotee only.
Let me read it. Not from mental speculations. Oh, where did I get it?
One from this statue.
Oh, it's changed so much.
Yeah, it is.
It's radically changed.
Yeah.
By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service. It's taken out pure. It's demonic. Hare Krishna, it's demonic. Trash. It's really unfortunate that young men, in the immaturity of their devotional life, I'm sure sincerely were thinking that they were doing something in service to Prabhupada, but not with any brain. If someone writes something and then leaves this world, and someone else chooses to, oh, he didn't really mean that, he meant this, they have completely strangled that individual's thoughts. You know? We have many poems in the world. What's it, this, Yeats is his name? Milton's Paradise Lost, for example. Tell me a Western poet that's commonly... but if you try to change any of the poets' language that have already passed, you're going to completely deform his work. It's sacrilegious. Okay. So, final verse, 286.
Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Asa Caitanya Caritamrta Kahe Krishna Dasa.
Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate the Caitanya Caritamrta, following in their footsteps. Madhya-lila chapter 6, Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Thank you for your patience and listening. And I feel it was very appropriate to mention about the book changes at this time, because devotees need to be educated. The purpose of our speaking and talking at any time is simply education. Isn't it? Our life is, if we are being educated ourselves, then our mission is to educate those coming into contact with us who are not as educated perhaps, or who are eager to hear those truths that we have understood. So this is part of our education to understand what has taken place in these books. So I've tried to describe a synopsis of this chapter, which I think is, we've also described, I think it was in chapter 7, this Prakashananda Saraswati. This is described in the synopsis. This is what's going to come. When Mahaprabhu, he goes on his travels in South India for almost 2 years, and he goes on the excuse of going to see his brother, Vishwarup, who has become Sankaranya, going to find him. And he finds his place in Purandar, in the south. And the truth is that Vishwarup merges with Nityananda Prabhu. This is described there. But the real reason was to go to the Godavari and meet Ramananda Rai and have his Sakhi Bhav, Mahaprabhu's Sakhi Bhav, which is in potential to be fully woken up in the association of Vishaka, who is Ramananda Rai. So when that meeting takes place, that ignites Mahaprabhu's potentiality to wake up fully the Sakhi Bhav. And from that meeting onwards, then Mahaprabhu is so much more immersed in the nature of Sakhi. This is what he wanted. Mahaprabhu has advented to taste Prem Ras Niryase Korite Ashvara. He's come to taste that. The affection that Radhika has for him is so much superior to the affection that he has for her. As a result, her bliss is way superior, millions of times superior, it's described in the Adi-lila chapter 4. We've already been through that. So Mahaprabhu wants to taste that. And in Puri, that is there in potential, but it doesn't fully manifest. In Navadvip, it's there in potential, even though Navadvip is Gupta Vrindavan. Everything is there in Navadvip. The forests are all there in Navadvip. All the Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi is also there in Navadvip. In Puri, it's not there. So in Srivasangam, the Rasa-lila takes place, this Sankirtan Ras of Mahaprabhu in his last year, when he was 23, 24 years old, at that Satpraharya,
Satpraya Sankirtan.
Yes, that 21 hours kirtan that took place in Srivasangam. But this Sakhi Bhav had not risen fully until he comes to the Godavari. So he comes to the Godavari, he is awakened into that mood of Sakhi Bhav, and then he returns to Puri, and he instructs Ramananda Rai at that time, you have to give up this job, and you come and you spend your whole life just with me in Puri. And Ramananda Rai immediately does that, and Prataparudra, the king, he bestows as his, retirement pension, full salary, while he's actually still in Puri, so he can serve and engage with the Lord fully. But then the Lord wants to go to Vrindavan still. And then he tries to go, this is the sequence that I'm going to run through briefly. Then he goes straight up the coast through Balasore, through Ramuna, through Navadvip, and he meets Raghunath Das at one point here. And then he goes on to Ramkeli and meets Rupa and Sanatan. And Sanatan instructs him, you shouldn't try to go to Vrindavan with a whole crowd. This is not conducive. So Mahaprabhu listens to that, and he turns around and comes all the way back. When he comes back, there's the Panihati festival performed, and that's afterwards. But he comes back, and then he remains in Puri for another few months, and then again he wants to go to Vrindavan, but this time he goes through the forest of Jarikanda. And then he induces the animals, and he shows his potency of taking away all the enviousness of the animals themselves. The lions or the tigers are embracing the deer, etc. And then he comes to Varanasi. He spends a little time in Varanasi. Then he goes to Prayag. Then he goes to Vrindavan. Then on his way back from Vrindavan, he only stays in Vrindavan for 10 days because that Sham mood becomes awakened more prominently in his heart, and he doesn't want that mood. He wants the mood of Radhika. So then he comes back to Prayag, and then he meets Rupa and Anupam at the Dashrameda Ghat, and he instructs them for 10 days. And yes, Rup Shiksha. And then this is all Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Then he sends Rupa Goswami to Vrindavan. Then he comes to Varanasi. Then he meets Sanatan Goswami for 2 months. He was 10 days only with Rupa in Prayag, but he's 2 months with Sanatan Goswami, because what he wants to infuse Sanatan Goswami with is Sambandha Gyan. And he describes sufficiently for him to manifest this Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is a huge, voluminous writing, and also the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So then he sees Sanatan Goswami for 2 months. He stays at the house of Tapana Mishra, and Chandrasekhar is there also. And then at that time, right at the very end, he purifies Prakashananda Saraswati. So Prakashananda Saraswati is a full Mayavad also. He's already purified Brihaspati. Now it's describing in this Leela that Mahaprabhu is spreading a net for the whole world. And these staunch Mayavads are trying to sort of escape that net of Mahaprabhu. But these descriptions of his Leelas are when he's capturing those Mayavadis. And that's Prakashananda Saraswati. He captures him, and after he's purified all of that group, then he comes back again through the Jarikanda forest with Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who is a gopi. And he comes back to Puri in her previous life. She's a gopi. And then he begins his pastime. And then at that stage, at that point, that's when Govinda, his servant, comes to him. That's when Swarup Damodar comes to him. That's when all his eternal associates come to him. Because now Mahaprabhu is going to stay here for the next 18 years. He spent 6 years traveling in South India, going up to Ramkeli, going to Vrindavan, coming back to Prayag and Varanasi through the Charikanda. This all took 6 years. It's a long time, significant. So now Mahaprabhu is going to stay for 18 years in Puri, performing his amazing pastimes. And for the first 6 years, there will be many descriptions of the Ratha Yatra festival, etc. And then the last 12 years, Mahaprabhu becomes more and more internal. Mahaprabhu is our bhajan shiksha guru. He's showing us how to perform bhajan in this life. What is needed? First, we should be doing so much extensive preaching in the world. But afterwards, when mercy is coming, we should sit and we should reflect and we should be chanting carefully. And obviously preaching at the same time. But the focus should be on our internal development. That is the purpose of Mahaprabhu. If we're just speaking to everybody but not becoming purified ourselves, what is the value in that? Really, both have to go on. We become purified by the preaching. Belching, Prabhupada said, was the, what was it, the expression? Preaching is the belching of our bhajan.
Belching.
Burp. When you burp after a meal. When you're satisfied, you burp.
Yeah.
So that burping is the effect of our bhajan, and that burping is our preaching. So as much as possible, we should try to embrace these remarkable conceptions into our lives, because Mahaprabhu's teachings are only going to be prominent for a very brief time, and then the waves of Kali will cover. We see already, just after the departure of so many illustrious personalities, particularly my Gurudev has just left, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj left, then who is holding the shelter for this direction at the moment? We must always be praying for that higher association. Without that higher association, we cannot move forward. So Srila Gurudev ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. So no class tomorrow in preparation for our class on Wednesday. I'll be doing a Zoom class on Wednesday, and that Zoom will be pushed across into YouTube and Facebook, I hope, by some clever techies. We'll push the class onto this same link. So you can click on the same link and you will get the Zoom. And I'll be speaking with, I'll be speaking first for about 40-50 minutes. And then Vaikanis Maharaj will be speaking afterwards. This is on Wednesday. So that'll go for a whole week until Gorpanim Day itself. And tomorrow, just if any local devotees are here, I'll just speak locally to the local devotees without any cameras tomorrow. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Oh Gaura Hari Bol, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavebhacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.